Okay, I want you to think about something. What was the last piece of tech that really, I mean truly, felt like magic to you? And now, think about how fast that feeling wore off, right? How quickly did it just become, well, normal? So today we're going to dive into that whole journey, from pure wonder to just, part of the wallpaper of our lives. We're going to talk about why we so easily forget the absolute miracles we live with every single day. It all kind of starts with a story that sounds like something from a completely different time, almost like a fairy tale. Just picture it. A whole family gathered together in their living room, and their entire world for that evening is coming out of this one little wooden box. A voice, music, a story from far away. That wasn't just background noise. It was an event. It was a shared experience that brought them all together.
And look, that feeling, it wasn't just them. For generations, entertainment wasn't something you could just pull up on demand. It was this scheduled thing, this weekly ritual you actually planned your day around. It built up this real sense of excitement.
And you can totally see how this whole thing played out over the decades. First, you've got families huddled around the radio. Then you get kids like me waking up super early for Saturday morning cartoons. You couldn't miss them. And fast forward a bit, and it's teenagers staying up way too late just hoping to catch a glimpse of their favorite band on Friday night videos. Each of these things was like this tiny, precious window into a much bigger world.
But then, bam. That little weekly window just gets blown wide open. What used to be this rare treat suddenly became this nonstop 24/7 flood of music and fashion and culture. It literally went on to define an entire generation.
And I mean, the sheer scale of this change was just massive. We jumped from a scheduled show, little peek behind the curtain once a week, to this all-consuming, around-the-clock cultural force. MTV wasn't just something you watched. For so many people, it was something you lived and breathed.
Okay, but this pattern, it wasn't just about stuff we watched passively. What happens when that magic becomes something you can actually interact with? Well, for a lot of us, our very first taste of that was a pretty simple box with a joystick and some, let's be honest, very chunky graphics.
Oh yeah, for sure. Compared to the games we have today, Atari looks absolutely ancient. But that's kind of missing the point, isn't it? We weren't judging it by some future standard that didn't even exist yet. We valued it for what it was, right then and there. It was a completely revolutionary new way to play. It was all we had, and man, did we appreciate it for the sheer novelty it brought into our homes.
But this is where that pattern really starts to crystallize. You see it with the radio, you see it with MTV, you see it with Atari. This familiar cycle just starts to kick in. That initial shock and awe, that feeling of pure magic, it just inevitably starts to fade. And so, yeah, the thing that once demanded every ounce of our attention just slowly becomes part of the furniture. The radio, it's just background noise now. MTV, just another channel you flip past. And video games, they're just a normal part of life. That magic, well, it becomes mundane. It's just what happens. So this all leads to an even deeper question, right? If we can so easily take something as exciting as MTV or Atari for granted, what about the miracles that are so baked into our daily lives that we've completely forgotten they're even there? I mean, the stuff we don't even see anymore.
Because let's be clear, this whole thing goes way, way beyond just entertainment. We're talking about the fundamental building blocks of our modern world, these invisible conveniences that we lean on every single second of every single day.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Clean, running water just by turning a handle. Instant light with the flick of a switch. Food that stays fresh for weeks, not hours. Smooth paved roads that let us travel for miles without a second thought. For us, this is just Tuesday. It's normal. But you have to realize, for basically every human who has ever lived before us, this list would sound like pure unimaginable sorcery. And this gets to the very heart of why all this invisible magic was created in the first place. Every single one of these inventions, the refrigerator, the washing machine, electricity, was designed to do one thing: free us up from the brutal, all-consuming work of just surviving. They were built to give us back the one resource you can never, ever get more of: our time. So that brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. Our world has been completely upgraded. We live with the kind of technological abundance our ancestors literally couldn't have dreamed of. But here's the thing. Have our minds been upgraded to match?
I mean, just look at this contrast. It shows this massive gap between their world and ours. For our ancestors, the daily task of living was a full-time job. It was all about finding the next meal. For us,
That entire struggle is basically automated. Survival, for most of us, is just a given. It's a background app that's always running, one we barely ever have to think about.
So we're going to leave you with this to chew on. The world has changed at this unbelievable speed. It's handed us conveniences that past generations would have absolutely seen as godlike powers. So with all this extra time, with all this freedom from just basic back-breaking toil, have our minds really caught up? Or are we just, spending our most valuable resource, all this time gifted to us by these invisible miracles, without even realizing the incredible magic that we're taking for granted every single day?